This video is of me painting this empty, brand new 20-gallon aquarium. As you can see, it stains on the bottom. Show that I've water tested it. I water tested it for about 5 days. Now it's going to be getting in a black background. Uh, so this is super duper easy. This is the after photo, and this would be before. And the whole video is going to pretty much be me fast forwarded doing this issue. So this is where it all starts, and you're going to notice a theme here. Clean, 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 dry, dry, dry. This is the first time that I'm cleaning this tank. And what I do is I clean it with uh, Windex or any type of cleaner is fine, really. And then you want to definitely go back because that usually doesn't get all the grease and grime off of the tank. And you want to go back with denatured alcohol or, something of that nature as I hold up there. And this was sure to get all the oil and the grease you can't see off of that tank. It will make your life easier in the long run. Now, I also taped the trim on this. Really didn't have to because the trim's black, but if you want to make it a little bit easier, go ahead and do that. And the paint I'm using, just a general, I think it's an enamel, Home Depot special with an old cheap Harbor Freight foam brush. Nothing big. You're dabbing this on there and you're going to spread it around. Doesn't take any artistic ability at all. And if a knucklehead like me can do it, you sure can. So first coat. Instructions are to be very thin in a haze. And I never seem to get this right because I always want to get paint on there. But you got to really tell yourself just a thin haze. And you're going to want that haze to dry uh, pretty nice before you put it on. That'll give your second coat something to stick to. And so this is what I'm doing, but you'll see that I've gone already by haze. Uh, However, generally I try to stop here. So now next, it takes some time, and then we're back looking at what I had done, and I had jumped forward a bit here and blot a few spots that had problem with the paint adhering to it. And just to give you an overview, what you're going to be looking at when you paint your first tank, the background, and this will give the second coat something to adhere to. So I come back a little bit later. You can tell, different shirt, different day, uh, and throw coat two on there. Now, this again is going to be a light coat, but it can be heavier in the first. It's easy to get carried away and ruin what you've done here. Try not to. Try to stay with thin coats. If you put too much on there, it will tend to peel. If there's any paint that's not adhered well or wet still, it tends to peel that off. So, but as you can see, you get some pretty good coverage pretty quickly if you take your time and do it right. So, two ways to go. Definitely give it plenty of time to dry after this coat and cure. Plenty of time. Or, as you'll see here pretty soon, um, what I do is a shortcut if I don't want to wait time. Uh, and I break out a good old blow dryer. And so this is after I put my paint away, I come back a little bit later and bam, got that on high heat, by the way. I don't, no reason to play with it. Uh, Go ahead and get it nice and warm and let that paint get good and cured because you're going to have some spots that aren't going to take well, and you're going to have, some trouble spots. So you want to make sure to get that good dried and good and cured the best that you can. Um, best way to go about really doing that is give it if your time's not an issue, give yourself a few days between coats. However, you don't have to. See, it's a little tacky to the touch maybe, but it's ready to roll. So here I am again. Now it's time for coat three, and you can see some of the spots that the paint did not take. Uh, and so here we go, and hence the need for the tape also. Not a big deal though. It's the back and it's black. So, um, all right. So as we move forward in the video, I'm back again for another round. You can see I got my cheap foam roller, to roll this third coat on. I'm going to put it on a little thicker now. I've got the two coats on, got time to dry, and I really want to get some of these spots that have not been able to get filled. I want them filled, and so I'm going to go a little thicker on this coat with that foam brush and try to get some consistency across the strokes also. Really doesn't matter though. Once you get the tank with water in it, fish in it, no, you can near about have a scratch all the way across and no one's going to notice. But when you do it, I try to start off, as good as I can get it, but it's really not necessary. No one will notice. So after third coat, come back with the trusty old hair dryer and give that thing a good old hair dry best you can. So if you see in the background, I have the Thunderdome, and at this point in time making this video, that tank has changed completely, and those fish are much bigger, and they've got an upgrade in living conditions. Um, but at the time of this video, I've ruined this video on several attempts, so I'm gonna throw this up on YouTube, see if anybody watches it. So so again, just as in the other coats, you want to get this good and dry because the last thing you want to do is to have it peel when you go to, put the next coat on. You want to make sure that your hard work is going to take on this tank. However, I say hard work. You can tell this is definitely not hard. It's not like I'm doing anything, but you definitely want to make sure, especially once you get your coats going, that you have them nice and firm on there and dried. So as you can see now, I'm getting quite the coverage, and I have a pretty good thick uh, coat of paint going. And so we're starting to get it, but I still have problems, right? See that those places I've never been able to paint a tank for some reason, not having little ridges like that come through. It must be from the brush. So it looks like you probably think, oh, you got it great. Man, this looks really good. That wasn't hard at all. Well, it's not necessarily perfect. It was good enough to pass, but this is what it looks like with the light shining through it, and all the light that can be allowed. So we're definitely not out of the woods yet. However, if you painted a tank like this and you had no light coming from behind the tank, this would be fine. Nobody would notice at all. And I know because I have tanks that I have scratched the paint off the back moving filters, and no one bats an eye. Uh, Also, while you watch me apply this coat to this tank again, it's a repeat of before, should you paint your tank and scratch it, don't fear. Number one, it probably won't be noticed to anyone but you. And number two, if you have access to the back of the tank in any way, grab you a piece of electrical tape and cover the hole with electrical tape. Pretty soon you'll forget it's there, and no one else on earth will notice it's there because you'll be shocked at the number of people who, your focus is on the fish, the contents of the tank. And normally, before you recognize any imperfections with the background, you're going to notice imperfections with the foreground, or the fish, or the substrate, or the plants. And the average person's just going to notice the fish. So definitely don't worry too much about that. So here I am again, blow drying again, right? There's a theme going on here, and I put a little splotch on the back of the tank um, to show anyone who may be watching this for the first time. It is not a big deal at all. If you get paint on that tank, you get paint on that glass, it comes right off. Brand new paint, brand new tank, threw some paint on the side in place I definitely don't want it, and I am not concerned one bit because it razor blades right off. And if you don't want to razor blade it off, is there other ways to do that? However, just get you a good razor blade and peel that off. So as you can see, now we got better coverage. Not quite there yet, believe it or not, because we got some problem areas, and I'm going to try to address that. And here we go again to make sure that paint's dry, and we're going to blow dry the whole thing to make sure those problem areas are dry now. You don't want to definitely overlook that. If you go back and you touch up a spot, you have to make sure, no matter how small that spot is, that it cures before you go to move it. You're going to be in for a bad day, and it will also cause your tank, if to look less than stellar, right? as you can see, you put several coats on it. You want it to come out looking like you want it, don't you? So one more all around coat to feather it all in. I would like to say that, but it's just not. Now here we go. This is how easy it is. Literally, not even a very sharp blade, uh, and it peels right off. Ta-da! Easy as that. Not a problem. All right, moving on. Back to the blow dryer again. It's the most I use a blow dryer in a long time, people. Yeah. So we're slowly but surely getting to the end. And this glass, though I clean it with glass cleaner and isopropyl alcohol, uh, wanted to fight back in certain spots. Just refused to get some coverage. You'll find most fish tanks have one or two spots for some reason tend to reject the uh, paint. So now that I have quite a bit of paint on the back of this tank, from the inside or look from the front of the tank, it's going to look more finished. So what I'm doing here is I'm literally grossly just applying paint to the back because it's not going to be seen from the back. But I do want max coverage. I do want to block out max light on this tank from the back. Um, that way, when I do scratch it, and I will, I notice it. So, but there's definitely nothing special here except for slap the last coat or so on. And then after you do that, very super important because you just put a lot of paint on the back of this tank that you definitely make sure it's dry. But as you can tell, I am not taking any time. I'm not trying to be artistic in any way. This is sheer gross motor painting. And I'm honestly even surprised I globbed that much on there. After a quick cleanup, a few minutes, pull that tape and pull it off in one big stroke as you can, and don't stop. If you peel a bit back, you can off. You can go back and touch that up. It's not the end of the world. Uh, and as you can see, if it tears off, just grab you a screwdriver, a blade, and peel it off and pull it. Simple. Chances are, if the paint does peel at all when you're doing it, uh, no one's going to notice that for you because it's going to be close to the tank rim. And people generally don't pay attention to the edges at all. Our minds are geared to go towards the center. So even if you left it without touching it up, chances of someone noticing are very, very remote. And they would have to be looking for it. Maybe another fish tank freak person that would, do this would notice it, but your average Joe has a 10-gallon, 20-gallon fish tank. They're probably not going to be worried with it. So, all right. So here we are. This should be, we're getting close to the end here and making sure it's really super dry. After this, you want to give the paint time to cure, not just dry, but also to cure all the way through. And this will prevent it from peeling off or smudging when you move it. And if anybody's ever tried to paint glass before, that's different than the paint not being dry. It's adhering to the glass. So I would recommend to give it some time, even if you do the blow drying method. So this fish tank was a new purchase to house some fish, new additions that didn't quite mesh together and get along so well. So as you can see, we have better coverage now. There's a very little light coming through it all. Still got that little dot there. I don't know what that's all about, but so generally blacked out. And that's the way if you want to take the time. So, and there it is, before and after with some of the substrate which I was working on. And there's also going to be a little bit of water. There you go. And that will conclude our video. Fish were added and everybody is doing well. Thank you for watching.